The city glowed like a crown of diamonds under the restless clouds, streets buzzing with laughter and neon lights. Yet, on the 50th floor of the Harrington Global Tower, silence weighed heavy. Inside his vast glass office, Alexander Harrington, the CEO whose name commanded respect and fear alike, sat alone at his desk. Tonight was his birthday. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the untouched files stacked like walls around him. No phone buzzed, no knock came at the door, no one dared to intrude. That was how it had always been. For years, he had waved away birthday dinners, declined gestures, and convinced himself he didn't care. But now, at 50, surrounded by everything money could buy, the emptiness gnawed at him. He rose and walked to the window. From above, the city looked alive, families holding hands, friends laughing, people sharing meals. He envied them. He couldn't remember the last time someone had said happy birthday to him without it being scripted, polite, or forced. Then it happened. A knock, soft, almost hesitant, echoed not from his office door, but from the glass door leading to his balcony. He froze. Impossible. The balcony was 50 stories up. Yet the knock came again, gentle but firm. Curiosity drove him forward. He slid the door open, and his breath caught. A little girl stood there. She looked about 8, with dark hair and uneven braids, wearing a worn dress and scuffed shoes. In her small hands, she held a napkin-wrapped bundle. Her eyes, bright, honest, unafraid, lifted to his, and she smiled. "I saved you some cake, mister," she said sweetly, holding it out. Alexander blinked, stunned. Slowly, he took the napkin and unwrapped it. Inside was a piece of chocolate cake, a little squished but still intact. "It's my birthday too," she explained. "We had cake at the shelter. I thought maybe you'd like some, since you're all alone." For a moment, Alexander couldn't breathe. He hadn't eaten birthday cake in years. The richest man in the city, yet here he was, humbled by a child's simple kindness. He broke off a piece, tasted it. Too sweet, slightly dry, but to him, it was the best thing he'd ever eaten. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. "Lila," she said proudly. "What's yours?" He almost chuckled. Nobody asked him that anymore. Everyone called him Sir, Mr. Harrington, or Boss. But never Alexander. "It's Alexander." Her smile widened. "Happy birthday, Alexander." The sound of his name, spoken with such warmth, cracked something inside him. He found himself talking, about the view, about her birthday, about things he hadn't shared with anyone in years. She told him about the shelter, the volunteers, how she had wished for a friend when she blew out her candle. "And then I saw you," she said simply, "so I thought maybe you needed cake too." For the first time in decades, Alexander laughed, really laughed. And for a brief, magical hour, the CEO and the little girl sat side by side, sharing cake and conversation as if they'd known each other forever. When Lila finally stood, yawning, she said, "I should go now. But don't worry, friends don't just disappear." And then, as quickly as she'd come, she was gone. Alexander sat frozen, staring at the empty napkin in his hands. The office no longer felt as heavy, the silence no longer unbearable. For the first time in his life, his birthday had meant something. That night, Alexander made a quiet promise, "I'll find you again, Lila." The following days passed, but Alexander could not shake the memory of Lila. The image of her smile, the taste of the humble cake, the sound of her saying his name, they haunted him. For the first time in decades, his meetings felt meaningless, his boardrooms felt colder, his empire felt hollow. He began to ask questions. Quietly, at first. He had resources, influence, connections, yet finding one little girl in a city this large was harder than closing billion-dollar deals. But he persisted. Why? He didn't quite know. All he knew was that she had given him something priceless, the reminder that he was human. One evening, he found himself outside a children's shelter on the quieter side of town. The building was modest, but warm light spilled from its windows. Through the glass, he saw children laughing, volunteers serving food, lives full of struggle but also simple joy. And then, there she was. Lila. Her braids bouncing as she helped a smaller child with their plate. Alexander's chest tightened. He could have turned away, could have convinced himself it was a foolish whim. But instead, he stepped inside. At first, heads turned. Whispers filled the room. What was a man like him doing here? But Lila spotted him and broke into a grin. Alexander, she cried, rushing over. She said his name like it was the most natural thing in the world, not a brand, not a title, just a friend's name. He knelt down to her level, feeling strangely out of place and yet, right where he belonged. You kept your promise, he murmured. Of course, she giggled. Friends don't disappear. From that night on, Alexander returned often. At first, it was awkward. He had no idea how to talk to children, no idea how to smile without it feeling forced. But Lila guided him, with her questions, her laughter, her unshakable belief that he was more than just a lonely man in a tall tower. She introduced him to the others, pulled him into games, shared stories that made him forget the weight of boardrooms and stock markets. Slowly, the staff noticed something too. The once cold billionaire began sponsoring meals, funding repairs, donating books and toys. But more than his money, he gave his time. And as weeks turned into months, Alexander realized the truth. Lila had given him more than cake on his birthday. She had given him back his heart. On his next birthday, Alexander didn't sit alone in a skyscraper. He stood in that shelter, surrounded by children singing off-key, holding a cake far too big and messy for his sleek tastes, but perfect in every way. Lila stood beside him, her hand in his, and whispered, "Happy birthday, Alexander." This time, his answer was steady, sure, and full of gratitude. "Happy birthday, Lila."